the air quality is even better than that. Now, in India, all over the India, if you look into this, then we see that this particular in India, different sources contribute to how much. You see, the wind blown dust is about 29%. Others are different. So for which we try to do lot of computational detail mathematical equations and all, but we are not. I'm not going to detail of that particular. But then with a lot of efforts and development of model and everything, we predict and then communicate it to the society. Explain like this. Only told that these are the communication where you convert the into information, the air quality of the six categories and all those terms. So Suffer has a kind of a system where there is a mobile app called Suffer Air mobile app, and there is a website. So all those and different is there. So when you can download Suffer Dash Air, then you can find all these terms, air quality in your unit. During the hello, right? Uh, uh, Yeah. Can you see relative share of source of emission? Uh, uh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So now this is the kind of a total system where you have a supercomputer from where you can always, run a program and all, and then predict the air quality. Now, data need to be translated into information, and that is where the communication to the society is very important. And that is what, as I told, that already there is a color from good to severe, and these are the way by which data is converted to the numbers and color, so that easily you can make out, like in a ballot paper you are having a different symbols of different parties, say, and candidates. Similarly, air quality can be understood by this. So now the dissemination tools are there where you can download the mobile app Suffer Air, and then you have a dynamic website, and then display boards. So many things are there. So all those things are the dissemination tools. Now I am coming to one very important topic that during the last 2.5 years we have seen significantly, and there is some positivity because air pollution is considered to be giving you the stress, and then so many things. So similarly, the negativity has gone and positivity started relatively better as far as the air quality is concerned, and then pollution has gone down to about 60 to 70% in many cases. But one important thing which has happened, that we wanted to know that what nature has given us in terms of air pollution species, for which we get adaptive, and which is we get susceptible to that particular thing adoption there, so it doesn't affect us. That is called a baseline level. So when all the activities are over and finished, then we came to know about that level, which would not have been, which would have been impossible to know in a normal circumstance. So this is one example that downstairs is the what Delhi looked like during the lockdown, but before it was like that. You can see that you can't see even the birds also. Then air quality has gone in a lockdown like this. But what I was talking about is that left is the percentage reduction in emissions in a different, like black carbon, it is reduced by 86.34%, PM2.5 84% is reduced. But with this, I think we came to know about the baseline level which nature has given, and you cannot go below this. And that is, for example, Delhi it is 20, in Chennai it has come out to be something like 16, and so on. So this is the level. So our standards and everything, we would like, we can't play with the nature, because and we got adapted to that. This particular kind of a amount of pollutants are natural, and we it cannot harm us. So that is the reason that we should be very practical, and these are the levels which we came to know during that time. But this is another social dimension, is this that human rape the nature in plastic, but the nature raping the human in plastic. This is called real karma, and that is what during the, you must have seen that PPT kit and all what we are wearing on that kind of thing. But now the world is facing one of the biggest problem faced by the due to plastic, because so much of a waste disposal have come out in the plastic, in terms of a plastic, with the PPT kit, PP kit, and everything, that disposing of is becoming a big problem, because it will give rise to huge amount of pollution and many other things are there. Now I am coming to the last part of my slide, which has mentioned that we started with a school flag awareness program for the society, so that the young minds knows what way. Hello. So young mind knows how the things go. Then there is some facts and solutions where you see the reality of health of the life. That you are obese not only because you eat too much, but you are, you are breathing foul air also. Then the suffer flag. This is the program where the school you distribute, society, kids will come to know, and then they will have a problem. And this is the thing which I thought that you would like to see. Very simple what the teachers to explain it. Then that way is the health system starts getting worse and worse. So now I am coming to my last two slides, that as a possible initiative in your hand, as a academician, as a researcher, as a awareness programmer, and a specific thing that supports, you can have that. What way you can have, you can put this subject which is becoming very important to in the curriculum everywhere. Then short-term internship is done by NIAS also. You can take the classes, join the program, and then research also. You can come as an intern and try to do this kind of thing. Well, these are another thing which say with a lot of research that these are the trees which, if you start planting further, jamun, parni, then people, champa, all those you can do, and these are the another indoor plants which are said to be reducing the outdoor air pollution, but there is not much of evidence, but it is still there. So with this, I think I close my talk, and sorry for any interruption if it has happened in that, but I thank you very much for patiently listening my talk. And unless we all work together for any scientific, whether it is a physical or anything, you need. Hello. Thank you, sir.
And Crescent Institute, I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
And people will write to you.
Yes.
Any comments questions are right, they will write to you.
Yes, yes, please. My email is there. They get the rate of nias.res.in.
And your talk is a compliment. Professor Parmesh, he has given the talk yesterday.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. And your talk is really complimentary to that.
Yeah,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Ready? Okay. Uh, he is a Bhatnagar Awardee and Fellow of Indian Academy of Science, and he was responsible for making the air quality index in Kanpur, India, Indian capital, Delhi capital region, no, national capital region, and he has done a tremendous work. And he is a scholar. He is a scholar in both the science as well as sociology, and he works for the people's welfare in Uttar Pradesh. He belongs to Aligarh, and another fantastic human being. And he was inducted in as a fellow Indian Social Science Academy this year, life fellow. And people who are not fellows, I would like to request them with their biodata as a life fellow of Indian Social Science Academy, so that the academic culture will be improving in Indian Social Science Academy. I request all the senior professors to enroll themselves as life fellows. So the next talk is Dr. Kalachan Sen. He is not there. Shankar Kumar Nath, he will come tomorrow because he has to go to USA via Madras for our Social Science Congress. For this purpose, he comes to Chennai, make a physical presentation, then go there. And Shankar Kumar Nath will come tomorrow. Uh, any other persons who wants to read some paper, you can decide. Yeah. Fine. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Uh, Friends, we have two presentations. One read by Professor Asadi, which was by S.G. Bombatkere, because he could not come. The second was scheduled as Shankar Nath. He could not come today. And third was by Kalachand Sen. He also did not come. So we included the Dr. Gurfan Beg. You have heard, because of technical snags, the voice was not clear. So many times it happens with the online things, and that effectivity goes. But anyway, we have to cope with the situation, because the infrastructure wise, we are yet to cope up with the coming up new technology at that level. So we need to grade up ourselves if we want to catch up the things, but at the same time we must link with the root so that we can communicate effectively. Uh, since the other presenters listed is not there at this stage, and the person who has presented, he cannot be connected for the interaction, so the option left is to break for tea, and after that we can reassemble here for the next plenary. Now, may I just one thing? May I? Yeah. Before you can make an announcement, just may I propose a vote of thanks to the chair and the speakers who have spoken here. Uh, that will be talking personally. If there is anything personal information we need, we can discuss. Yeah. So let me thank the chair for this first plenary, and the speakers, and in absentia, and the proxy speaker, Professor Asadi, who has taken trouble to read his paper. though it was not his area, but still he struggled and read it. So thank you so much to all, and thanks your patience that you could tolerate everything what we have done, such kind of chaos, and you are still cooperating with us. Thank you so much. After this tea break, as soon as we come, we should not be more than 20 minutes. I mean, 15 minutes is sufficient, but we can be 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, we can reassemble here and we can have the second plenary. Thank you. Now, Dr. N.P. Chaube is going to have some announcement.
Thank you, Professor Devaka. Friends, those of you who are registered but you don't have this copy of the program, please collect from the registration counter of ISA, and this is the only valid document that guides you to which program is to be held. The only thing that is missing is the venue is not given. If there, which we tried, but the local people did not do it, particularly Agni Secretary. So this is the only program valid. If anybody telephones you, tells you that such and such program is there, in contrast to this, kindly do not be misled by it. Only follow this program for the next 3-4 days that we are doing it. That is one. Second thing is, those of you who participated yesterday inauguration, we released a book on human future in digital era. The book is based on the best selected paper of 42nd Indian Social Science Congress held in KIT University, Bhubaneswar. And the paperback price is 400. It is being offered to all delegates and members just on rupees 200, which is the cost price, not any kind of profit. Academy doesn't gain anything, only it gets the cost that it has incurred. I will request you, all of you, to buy the hard copy. The library bound copy is price 700. It will be available into 350. Besides, all other publications of the Academy are available and the restrictions are. We could not display because the tables were not provided yesterday. Till today, I have just again gone and requested. Hope they will do it. Those of you who wish to buy for yourself or your library, you can buy, place order, and 40% discount on all previous publications is available to the delegates and the members of the books. This is the second thing that I wanted to inform you. And now let us go for a tea and we come back for the plenary 2. And plenary 2, like this plenary was very serious, but fortunately the speaker could not come. So it was arranged in a logical fashion how we begin with our problem of environment, energy and health. And these are very serious papers. So that has happened. We moved to second plenary, which is very serious. And one of the serious speaker here, second of course has left. That's a different matter. But let us have that, and that will be good. Then in the afternoon, we'll go for the parallel sessions where each research committee thematic panel shall meet in different rooms and deliberate papers, those who have received. We have 500 papers to be presented, but only some 115 or 720 people have registered. That means the majority of those who have not yet come. So we have a very small number of army, and you have to fight a bigger battle. Now, can the small army win the bigger battle? That's a question. So let us show that even a small can win the big. So thank you, come.
Thank you. I have an important announcement from Vice Chancellor's office. Please assemble here at 11 o'clock. Professor Kalidas will be presenting. He is a Vice Chancellor. He will be making an online presentation. This is the announcement from Vice Chancellor's office. Thank you.
How can it happen? 11 o'clock, we have a plenary. We can't have something else. I'm sorry. Let us not allow anybody to disturb the program things, whoever it is. We will have plenary, no other things. Either we have it or we quit it.
Administrative block main Rahman, first floor, electrical and electronics engineering. That is electrical sciences block, the block same. When I get down, I don't like same facing.
He's not the chairman of the second. So,
when I should ask them.
no, you don't have to announce, we will announce. You remain secretary. Chairman is.
So now 11 o'clock should be so 12 o'clock. So 12 period in 11. Call the sorry. 12
What you are holding? Also, you got this social justice, you got. Very good. Why this human vision distiller that will give you only 200. That is Madhav Menon. In the hard copy, nobody talks about social justice.
ஆன்லைன் வேலை பண்ணுறதுங்களா? காளிதாஸ் ஃபோன் நம்பர் இருக்கா?
Kalidas Bharat.
12 o'clock. You are taking care, right? I am not chairman. I am just. No, I am not chairman. You will put somebody else as chairman. That's their problem. It's not my problem.
Second, somebody else.
Only thing is, I will be grand as speaker.
I should also not sit here when I we try and behave we are as an Indian. Indian है.
We are counting the number and the zero was given by a Bihari. Argument was the person who gave the zero and you are counting the zero. I have not said that I am not. But it is not that I am a Bihari, so I am bad.
No one can tell that. एक के कहने से कुछ होता है. लेकिन
But I am doing this. I am preferable member of Indian Social Science. Person bag, if you want to give this, I will give it to person
Yes,
bag.
yes,
Carry, he belongs to my institute. I will carry and deliver it. Okay? Courier service also you should give me. What's that? I take make sure his photo is there. I should not carry somebody else's photo. Make sure his photo is there, the front page photo. I can arrange. Yes, sir. No, this is like Picture Gurfan bag na kodukuno.
No, that's so that it should look like that. Otherwise, it looks like you are doing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right now I'll send it. இல்ல நான் அவருக்கு அனுப்பிச்சிடுறேன் ரைட் now.
Now this is the same by the way. Yeah, this is the
You know what kind of problem showed is that fine.
Check. Hello. Hello. Check.
At the dais, you should not make this.
Thank you, sir. May I invite Professor Rajendra Chowdhury to deliver the plenary talk on conventional.
Wait. Now, may I request chairperson to take over the dais and go according to proceedings. Yeah.
Honorable delegates and our honorable guest speaker, Professor Rajan Chaudhary. We have in the morning deliberated upon fundamentals of energy and mass interaction and how this interaction with the equation by Albert Einstein E is equal to mc square has created a dance in the world where the whole species are under danger, where the existence of human beings and other life is almost coming to end. That was the fundamental of Dr. Ambedkar, retired Major General of Indian Army, that he submitted. Unfortunately, because of the health of his wife, he could not come. But that is a very serious paper from the beginning of understanding of the problem of energy, environment, and health. How the problem of health arises. Problem of health, serious problem of health is corona created, and you have seen thousands and thousands of bodies being burned and things. How this energy, what you call it, air pollution, water pollution, food pollution, all kind of things that you pollution you find is things that fundamental is demonstrated from the understanding of science of nature by Dr. Ambedkar. Now we move to a second plenary, which will show how this is mass energy interaction had affected our agriculture, which produces all that is necessary for our survival. All kind of, is the food that we eat healthy? Is the vegetable that we eat healthy? Is the fruit that we eat healthy? Is the water that we drink healthy? You will find none of these are healthy. And how this agriculture has been destroyed, what kind of crisis in agriculture in India in particular and world in general has been created, who are the forces behind it. Last year you had confronted with the farmers agitation all over India, located in Delhi, how the rulers and the sovereign. Who are the sovereign in democracy? It is the farmers, it is the laborers, the people. But how farmers are treated as a slave. They are killed and brutally things. They have no place in things that you have seen last year. Professor Rajan Chaudhary is a very serious economist and very eminent scholar. He was also very actively associated with this farmer agitation movements. With lot of requests, he reluctantly agreed to write and come. His paper is printed, you can see the volume. It is very, very serious paper. Like Ambedkar, the second thing that is coming on how the farmers' conditions are. If you look into how the British Raj destroyed agriculture things and what was expected after 1947, whether that dream was fulfilled or the slogan that land to the tiller, was he ever, how those who do not own the land now they are having thousands and thousands of acres of land. If you look at how they are master and those who had land. 16 years ago when I passed through this place, this was a village. All these were all things. Now you see how multi-story thing, where did these villages go? What did there happen? Now, that is a question, beginning from agriculture. I would only like to remind you one thing. There was one professor, N.R. Dhar, from Allahabad University, who are set up along with Meghna Shah and others, Indian Science Congress. In 1940, they organized. Professor Dhar was a member of the chemical sciences of the gold, what you call gold medal that is awarded by um, international people to get that big. What name I forget at the moment. He was in that committee, and where this chemical use of chemical fertilizer itself came to proposal for giving things, he opposed award of that Nobel Prize. I'm sorry, Nobel Prize. He opposed that because if you use this chemical fertilizer, you will destroy the fertility of soil, you will destroy the nutritional value of the food, and food will become unhealthy. He was not given any things. That was, and he has set up an institute of Siladhar Soil Institute in Allahabad University. But 1960s came and so-called Green Revolution brought under MS Swaminathan guidance how those who opposed among the scientists, if you know the history of Acharya and others, how they were hunted. And the American plan for Green Revolution agriculture was imposed. Dr. Chaudhary knows all this in great detail. He is a great scholar. And for the first time, he has come to the Congress. I, on behalf of the Indian Social Science Academy, on behalf of all the members of the Academy and all those who are here, I extend a very hearty welcome to you and invite you to deliver your lecture. There is no time binding. You take as much as you like and speak. And I invite you, as I've been inviting earlier, to join this academy to build a science that it keeps people alive, healthy things, and can make everybody happy. So I welcome you, invite you, please.
Yeah. Conventional farming adversely impacts all the three elements that which are the focal theme of this conference: environment, energy, and health. And there is an alternative. Often we hear that there are no alternatives. There is an alternative. I'll be talking about that. Next, please. For development and environmental sustainability, agriculture is important for two important reasons. One, that agriculture involves a lot of land use, water use, it uses a lot of environmental resources, and it also contributes to greenhouse gases. There are quotations you can see. But there is a second aspect why it is important. Agriculture produces our food. So it should be, which is the basis of our life. So agriculture has an important role for both these reasons, and not only the institutional aspects. The farmers' agitation was primarily about how the trading and etc. would take place. But we need to critically look at not only the institutional aspects, but also the methods, which unfortunately farmers' agitation, farmers' movement did not raise. But both these aspects are important. Next, please. Now, you might say, what is wrong with the so called Green Revolution? It was a revelation to me when friends of MS Swaminathan have cited officially on record that Swaminathan had called it not Green Revolution but exploitative agriculture. So it is now widely recognized, not only by Swaminathan and other pioneers, but official committees also, that it is the kind of agriculture that we are having is an exploitative agriculture. It is polluting our food, drinking water, air. It is destroying our rural economy. Agriculture traditionally was supposed to be the best of three professions. Why? because agriculturist was basically a self-reliant person, an independent entrepreneur or independent functionary. But right now, the way we undertake agriculture, farmer is basically a provider of labor most of the times, and sometimes land if he is the owner. Rest everything is external. So it is well recognized that it is destroying rural economy also. And as FAO says, the external costs of conventional agriculture can be substantial. So this much is fairly well recognized. Next, please. But the question asked is there really an alternative? Is there an alternative to agriculture, green revolution or chemical farming or conventional farming that we have? And here is a quotation from Norman Borlaug, who is supposed to be the father of green revolution world over and got a Nobel Prize for it. And you can see it for itself. So most agriculture scientists question really basically the yield potential of agriculture, alternative forms of agriculture. They think that if world is to be fed, increasing population of the planet is to be fed, then green revolution or chemical conventional farming is the only alternative that is available. I beg to differ on that. And I'll show, based on our own experience in Haryana, which is the core area of green revolution, as well as a broad literature review, that an alternative method of farming which is suitable, which is sustainable for energy, environment and health, all these three is possible. Next, please. Now, broadly, organic agriculture is the term used for alternative forms of agriculture. But what goes under organic agriculture has quite a diversity, as you can read out here. There are various people, and you would have come across various names also: zero budget farming, natural farming, organic farming, and so many others. And some of them also fighting with each other with which one is the real alternative. But I think so. One important distinction is there is a way of doing organic farming which involves a lot of external inputs. And there is another way of doing agriculture or organic farming, call it natural farming, which is more or less self-reliant. So just to clarify, to make this distinction, self-reliant organic farming means that farmer doesn't really have to buy anything externally. All the agricultural inputs can be managed on farm in the village itself. And to make a distinction between this approach to organic farming, we call it natural farming. You call it natural farming, you can call it self-reliant organic farming. I would have no problems with that. And whenever I speak of my own experience or my own understanding, it would be of self-reliant organic farming or natural farming. But when I cite literature or refer to others, then it could be any of these forms of organic farming. So it's a mixture. And whenever, if you wish to do research on organic farming, you must keep in mind and be very clear which form of organic farming are you referring to. Actually, these are basically two different forms of farming: self-reliant organic farming and an organic farming which is heavily dependent upon external inputs. They are practically two different methods, though both are organic, but I would suggest that they should be treated as two different methods. Next, please. Why this focus on self-reliant and yield-centric approach? Why this focus on self-reliant? Okay. No, previous one. Yeah. Basically, most people agree that there are problems with chemical farming and that organic farming is better. Broadly, substantially, there is an agreement on that. But what is questioned is whether non-chemical farming, organic farming, can really feed the world.
So it's the yield potential which is questioned basically broadly. Advantages of organic are accepted, disadvantages of chemical are accepted. It's the yield potential which is questioned. Hence, our purpose is to disprove this myth that organic farming is low yielding. So hence it is yield centric approach. Of course, uh, the amount of food that we eat or we need depends upon many things. You eat vegetarian food, maybe you will need much less of biomass or total production. You use non-vegetarian food through a long food chain, through factory farming of cows and mm, other animals, you would need much larger amount of food. So, and food wastage is there, all those things. So, if we take all these things into consideration, the yield requirement would be quite reduced. But we have taken a worst case scenario, that not taking any of these things which reduce the total food requirement. Let's assume that we wish to have the same amount of food that we are getting through conventional farming. So we have taken a worst case scenario. And there was a second, another reason why we are taking a self-reliant farming approach. My practical experience, or not my own, but our work with farmers in Haryana through a Kudarti Kheti Abhiyan or a natural farming campaign, which is a voluntary non-funded organization. It does not have a contiguous project area. So farmers are spread all over the state, and initially they are few everywhere. So to ensure regular supply of external inputs would be difficult. So hence we perforce had to go for self-reliant farming. And secondly, because we did not have any financial resources or even manpower resources, so unless a farmer gets a comparable yield, a farmer dependent on farming for survival would not shift over to organic farming. Either you have to provide the farmer marketing financial support, or you have to assure the person that the yield will not decline. Because we were in no position to assure marketing support or any kind of financial help, so perforce, if we wanted farmers to shift, and we wanted those farmers who are dependent on agriculture for livelihood, not those IT professionals who have made their money elsewhere and then come to organic farming. That was not our focus. Our focus was on small farmers who are dependent on farming for livelihood. If they are to shift, and they are to shift without any financial or mm, marketing support, then the yield should be good. There was another reason why we are yield centric. If a farmer gets a premium price and the yield is declined, still it could be profitable for the farmer to shift over to organic farming because he or she is getting premium prices. But for agriculture economists, for policy planners, those who are looking at the macroeconomic food security, for them it would not convince them. They would say, okay, it's profitable for the farmer because he or she is getting premium prices, but it cannot ensure food security for the country. And the secondly, they would say that, okay, if it's premium prices, then organic is only for the elite. The masses then have to eat the same chemical laden food. Of course, we wanted masses to have organic food. Hence, our focus was on yield. What I'm trying to explain is, organic has many more advantages. But why did we focus on yield? Ignoring other aspect, I'm trying to justify that. So that individual farmers at small scale, few have been doing organic farmers now for 2 decades, 3 decades. It has not become mainstreaming. But we wanted organic farming not to be a niche area, but to be mainstream. And as an economist, I was also worried about the food security at the macro level. So yield was an important question for us. And there was a third dimension also why we were looking at this self-reliant organic farming um, as a as a development value. I or promoters of organic farming or Kudarti Kheti Abhiyan in Haryana wanted self-reliant villages, decentralized development closer to Gandhian model than the neoliberal model, and hence we followed this approach. And as a result, we have been providing farmers only with technical training, with no financial support, no marketing support, nothing else. Only methods training that we have been providing. Next, please. Okay. Advantages of organic farming. As I said, organic farming has many advantages and they are generally accepted by scientists, though they are not so well known in popular perception. It is environmentally safer, sustainable, can contribute to climate change mitigation and adoption, saves water, energy, provides safe and more nutritious food. As regards climate change, here is a quotation from a review study which says that it reduces emissions of greenhouse gases, requires less fossil fuel per hectare per kg of produce, leads to stabilization of soil organic matter, sequestration of carbon dioxide, water retention capacity. All these advantages are there of organic farming, which are well recognized. And not only climate change impact, because it uses local resources, traditional local resources, so it is useful for decentralized development also. There are data shows that in USA 10 to 70% decrease in Europe and Europe, and 29 to 30% decrease in USA in fossil fuel usage. And when fossil fuel uses go down, naturally the climate, it contributes to reduction of climate change and things. And I didn't know earlier, before I started working on organic farming, and then I realized chemical farming are basically petroleum derivative. They depend on petroleum to a great extent. They are so energy dense. For the world, when petroleum will decline or will be exhausted, may be debatable, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But for Cuba, when USSR stopped providing it with petroleum and other things, for Cuba, the petroleum was exhausted that very day. And USA restrictions would not allow it to purchase it elsewhere. So per force, it had to go to organic farming. It had no choice. Like right now, Sri Lanka has to move on to organic farming because they don't have the foreign exchange to buy chemical fertilizers. But the difference is in when you do the transition with planning and when you are forced to transit without planning, that makes all the difference. And there are two important documentaries on Cuba. You can see them and you would find that food, vegetable availability improved, and more significantly, rural employment increased. For a small country, there were 5 lakh more, 5 lakh or 5 million, I forget that, more rural employment was created. And all these results are not for the rest of the world. Even ICAR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, own India studies. I would be referring to this study later on also, but for the time being, please make note of this thing. It recognizes, ICAR research recognizes the continuous practice of raising crops organically has good potential to sequester the carbon up to 63% higher in 10 years, higher soil organic carbon, reduction in energy requirement by about 10 to 15%, increase in water holding capacity by 10 to 15 to 20%, thereby promoting climate resilience farming and maybe reduced flooding also. If water retention capacity increases, that would also happen. In fact, a study which is critical of organic farming, why it is critical of organic farming, that's a different matter. But even a British study which is critical of organic farming, that also recognizes that 100% shift to organic food production in England and Wales using life cycle assessment, direct greenhouse gases emissions are reduced with organic farming up to 20% reduction is possible. And as I said, it is not environmental impacts only, even economic impacts. Another study shows that because it uses locally available production assets, cost effectiveness, resilience of food production is there, and by managing biodiversity in time, rotation, space, mixed cropping, organic farmers use their labor, the most readily available capital they have, and environmental services. This is the other advantages of organic farming. Now, coming to health benefits, you must have often come across of food being contaminated, and agriculture scientists suggest what are called good agricultural practices, GAP practices, good agricultural practices. And the idea, presumption is that if you use good agricultural practices, that means you use chemicals in a manner that they are officially recommended, then food will not be contaminated. Okay, let's accept it for a minute that if good agricultural practices are used, then the food will not be contaminated. But there is a bigger danger. Even when the food is not contaminated by harmful chemicals, its nutritional quality is anyway going down. There are studies from the world over and there are studies from India. And please remember, in these quotations, in this data, I am not comparing organic and non-organic. What I am comparing is conventional food that there was in there in 1930s, let us say in Britain, and chemically produced food now in 2010 or 20 in Britain or USA or India. Over time, nutritional composition of food has declined. This is in addition to the problem of contamination. Please keep this in mind. Contamination is when some chemical substances are found in the food which should not be there in the food. That is contamination. But there is a decline in nutritional what should be in the food is not there. And okay, the basic reason is chemical farming. Chemical farming, we basically provide NPK, and agriculture scientists have identified that a properly a forest tree would have 34 different elements. A forest has a plant in forest has 34 different nutrients, and in our farming methods we are giving basically 2-3. If the plant is not getting balanced nutrition, how can its produce have a balanced nutrition? And this is not only happening in US and Britain, even in India. Hyderabad National Institute of Nutrition has in 1930s, then in 1960s, then in 80s had brought out tables of nutritional composition of Indian food. And that shows, this is a report from Down to Earth, that all the desirable elements are going down. And what is the consequences? No wonder fortification and nutritional supplement market is increasing. And government is now proposing to make fortification mandatory. Right now you get packaged milk with fortification, but that's not mandatory as yet. Now there is a proposal to make it mandatory. That means the small farmers will not be able to sell their produce. So rather than looking at solving the problem of declining nutrition and changing our agricultural practices to ensure that food remains as nutritious as it used to be, we are looking for artificial solutions like this. Well, there are till now I have been talking about declining nutritional composition of chemical food only over time and not compared with organic. Well, there are some studies which claim that organic is no better. There are some studies who claim that organic is not better. But there is another study, more recent study, which is a review of 343 peer-reviewed studies, including those studies which showed that the organic food is not better. This later review includes earlier studies also and the later studies also, and concludes that organically grown crops contain significantly higher concentration of nutritionally desirable antioxidants and lower levels of undesirable cadmium, and pesticide residues have significantly higher concentration of nutritionally advantageous things. So that's so organic is better, is though not universally accepted but generally accepted. Coming to Indian data, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, actually let me elaborate on this ICAR research. Since 2004, ICAR Modipuram Institute, which is Farming Systems Research Institute in Modipuram, UP, has been running trials of organic, chemical and integrated since 2004 in 20 centers in 16 states of the country. I'll be referring to their yield data later on, but their own conclusion is quality parameters of different crops were higher under organic management compared to integrated and chemical management. This is ICSR official recognition. And well, there are other farmers' anecdotal methods also. You throw, you put grains to birds and dogs, both chemically grown food and organically grown food for 2-3 weeks together. For 2-3 weeks, you put both kinds of food and see birds and dogs, which food do they eat first. You would find that birds and dogs eat organic food first. Once it is finished, then they might come back to chemical laden food. You take a particular variety of wheat or any organic produce, take a same volume and take its weight, and then compare it with the same variety of chemically grown food, same volume and take its weight. The variety is same, the food is same, volume is same. Simple science would say that the weight should also be same. But you would find that organic would be at least 5% heavier. You can try it at your own homes also. It is 5% more dense. Hopefully it is more nutritious also. And without any additional preservatives being used, no preservatives being used, organic food has a longer shelf life as compared to chemically grown food. Though chemically grown and chemical preservatives used food could have a much longer shelf life, but if both have no shelf and no preservatives used, then organic food has a much longer shelf life. So, I think so these conclusions are well established. Organic agriculture has huge environmental, health and social benefits. Environment footprint is much less. It is labor intensive, has potential to generate more employment. Being knowledge intensive, it privileges owner operative over absentee landlords. One of my friends, when we were both doing PhD, and he left the hostel before I left, and he told me that he will do organic farming. And when I met him 4 or 5 years later on and asked him, how is your organic farming going? He said he has stopped it. I said, why? It didn't work out. He says, no, it did work out, but it cannot be done on telephone. I was living in Bangalore and my land was somewhere else. Organic farming cannot be done on phone. So it's a hands-on operation. But coming to the main question, but can it feed the world? Because as I said, these advantages are generally accepted, though they are not so well known, but they are generally accepted. But can it really feed the world? That's the question. In 2007, FAO, Food and Agriculture, organized a conference on this very question. This was the question that was posed. What if the world converted on a large scale to organic agriculture? And the conclusion was organic agriculture has a potential to secure a global food supply just as conventional agriculture today, but with reduced environmental impacts. That's international level results. Coming to India level results, I was referring to Modipuram study. They are the results of that. 18 crops responded positively to yield on par or higher under organic system after conversion period of 2 to 3 years. And crops included basmati rice, maize, green gram, chickpea, soybean, cotton, garlic, cauliflower, tomato resulted in yield advantage to the tune of 4 to 14%. And for certain crops like soybean and cotton, there was not even initial decline in yield from the day one. In Sikkim, before shift to organic farming, the productivity of rice was 1.43 tons per hectare, but 11 years later it increased to 1.81 tons per hectare, and more interestingly, no yield reduction was observed during conversion period. So this is your ICAR data which shows that even in same typical agriculture scientists controlled trials and all those things. And please note that these impressive results are in spite of the narrow view of organic farming that they took. One narrow view of organic farming is that you only change the nutritional methods and plant protection methods. Rest of the agronomic practices remain the same. But in self-reliant organic farming, of course, chemical are not to be used, but many other agronomic practices also have to change. And typical ICR research, this was monocrop being compared with monocrop only, no mixed farming, nothing. So in spite of this limited focus, these results were received. I mean, in spite of this limited approach, understanding of organic farming, this was done. Then of late, they have started what are called integrated organic farming systems method. And in the very first year, in this integrated farming systems method means the broader view of organic farming was taken. Not only the chemical was stopped, mixed farming was there, so many other things were there. And their own results show that the net income rose by 2 to 7 times. It is not 2% or 7%. It is 2 to 7 times. These are ICR official results. But these other agronomic changes are not incidental to organic farming. They are essential to organic farming. And some of those elements are mixed cropping, crop rotation, residue recycling, improved composting, even irrigation methods have to change. In parts of Haryana and Punjab, farmers have a 2-acre long irrigation patch, and they have developed an automatic system. They switch on the system and go and sleep at home. At night the light comes and the tubal starts functioning, and because they are not there to manage it, so they have a huge plot and it goes throughout the night. Now in organic farming that will not work. We have to have, because in chemical farming they can do it because in any way there are no microorganisms. But in organic farming it is microorganisms which are the essence of that. And if you have that kind of irrigation, then those microorganisms would be drowned. So this broader view of organic farming, which has involves much more, many more agronomic changes than simply stopping the use of chemicals. Simply stopping the use of chemicals is an essential component, but that is not the sufficient component. All those things have to be done. And we in Haryana adopted this broader approach. And what are our results? In 2020, due to Corona, only a telephonic survey was possible. There was no, it was not possible to visit the farmers. And as I said, we have no commercial relationship with farmers. So farmers basically have no reasons to, fool us. If they have not shifted to organic farming, they would say, no, no, I have not done it. My family did not agree to it. Or they would tell us, no, no, I used a bit of DAP, did not use urea, etc., etc. Still, 45% organic farmers got better than state yield. Wheat is a main crop of Haryana, and wheat was the most problematic crop for organic farming. In the other slide also, in ICR data also, you must have noticed that in wheat, the yield was less than the chemical farming in spite of after 7-8 years also. So wheat was the most problematic crop for us. It is most important crop for us in Haryana. So we collected data only on wheat. And on wheat, 45% of organic farmers in Haryana were getting better than the state yield, official state yield. I must clarify a bit on this. Most organic farmers go for a taller varieties of wheat. In Haryana, that is a C306 variety, which is treated as a traditional Desi variety. This traditional Desi variety officially has an average yield of 26 quintals per hectare and maximum yield potential of 36 quintals per hectare. And the overall average yield for Haryana wheat is 46 quintals per hectare. So we use these two benchmarks. If the farmer was using Desi variety or C306, if he or she was getting more than 26 quintals, we counted him or her as getting better than average yield. And if the farmer was using high yielding varieties, then if he or she was getting better than 46 quintals per hectare, then we counted it. So combining these two, 45% organic farmers were getting better than state average yield in most problematic and most important crop of Haryana, that is wheat. If in core green revolution area we can get yield comparable to chemical farming, then it is possible to do it anywhere and everywhere. So Borlaug was wrong in underestimating the yield potential of organic farming. And as I said earlier, our many of us are our societies face a problem of obesity, overeating. There is a lot of food wastage. So if you take all those things into consideration, maybe you don't even need so much of food. But even if you were to need so much of food, organic can do that we have shown. Are there any constraints to mainstreaming for organic farming? Not only Borlaug, there are others. Indian Academy of Agriculture Sciences says that only about 25 to 30% nutrient needs of Indian agriculture can be met by utilizing various organic sources. So the other question on organic farming is that we don't have the organic inputs. But our own grassroots level experience says, and we have created a new manual based on concrete experience of Haryana farmers, and then we looked at the data. You look at the number of animals in India, and you look at the number of net sown area, acres of net sown area in India. Roughly, it is 0.87 cows and buffaloes per acre, and if you include sheep and goats and horses and donkeys, then it comes to 1.54 livestock per acre. And our farmers think that one animal per acre is more than sufficient. So if the whole country were to shift to organic farming, it is possible to do so. We have the inputs to do that. So but there are two other problems with organic farming or natural farming particularly. It needs extensive training, and being location specific needs farmer to farmer interaction, because in some of the local farmer level solutions used by in south maybe would have coconut involvement in it or fish involvement in it. Now farmers in Haryana don't have access to coconut, they don't have access to fish residue. So those location specific things have to be worked out, and that is a one, you can say, disadvantage, but that involves extensive training. Second, could be that it is more labor intensive. And because it involves mixed cropping, but that means this labor intensity spread out over the year. It is not concentrated. Right now in Haryana, Punjab, with wheat paddy cycle, the labor input is concentrated in few months of the year. And because labor is required for few months in the year, agriculture labor moves out of the village because there are no work for it for most of the year. But under organic farming, more labor is required, but that labor is required then throughout the year. So that could be an advantage also. And in any way, in a development model which is based on jobless growth, more labor intensive should be an advantage rather than being treated as a disadvantage. What happened? But unfortunate, no, I think so. There is one more previous, excuse me, a previous thing. But what is our agriculture policy doing? In 2001, a task force had recommended that 50% of land of all agriculture universities or all government lands should be under organic farming. Experiments should be done on that, and 50% on chemical farming. This was a recommendation of task force in 2001. Till date, that is not implemented. And the Modipuram Research Institute ICR studies that I referred to their data, and that data shows that organic is giving comparable yield. Yet in their policy recommendations, what they are saying, organic farming is sought to be limited to niche areas and crops for dry land agriculture, for Adivasi areas, etc., etc. And for what they call intensive agriculture areas and food hubs like Haryana, they are not recommending organic farming. And I was surprised, not a single sentence is there in the document that why this, okay, I'll finish in this time. Why this restriction? When your own data shows that organic is doing better than conventional farming, then why you want to limit it to Adivasi areas or non-irrigated areas? And of late, this present government has been coming out in support of some form of organic farming or the other. But the fact remains that this very government had appointed a task force for on organic farming, which had submitted report in 2016. That report of the task force appointed by this very government is not in public domain till date. The report was submitted in 2016. So one doesn't really know whether this would be a lip sympathy for organic farming or something concrete would come out of it. That's difficult to say. But unfortunately, it is not establishment. It is not only establishment which is indifferent to organic farming. Quote unquote, critics of current development models are also not very enthusiastic about organic farming. I refer to farmers' agitation. This long drawn agitation did not refer to methods of technique, food production or the quality of food production. The whole agitation was around institutional aspects. Those are important, but these aspects also should have been taken into account. And I'm referring to CPM's political resolution also. The resolution was on agriculture crisis, but there was no reference to methods of production or organic farming and things like that. Unfortunately, most often than not, even critics of current development model forget that scientific knowledge may be valid across time and space, but direction of development of science and more so technologies developed do carry the birthmarks of socio-economic structures that gave birth to them and cannot be used uncritically. This we often forget. And one good example I can give is this. Uh, if a new seed variety were developed in a publicly funded institution, then they would want to make sure that they make seed once and then for all it doesn't have to be supplied again. But if the same seed were to be developed by a profit making enterprise, they would want that every year that seed should be bought from them. If they give such a seed that it doesn't have to be replaced, then they don't earn profits. This we generally forget. Science and technology, the law of gravitation may hold for all times to come, but which direction would the development of science and technology would take, that is not independent of the socio-economic structures and political structures that we operate through. And uncritical reliance on marketed forces leaves us with much more adverse consequences than just unequal distribution. Those critical of current development models refer to inequality involved in this, but it has more consequences than that. To conclude, if environment, energy, health, and human life itself has to be protected, then chemical farming has to go, and the natural farming is the way to go. Some people might suggest a rational use of chemical fertilizers, limited rational use of chemical fertilizers. But if you can get the same yield without any chemical fertilizers, then why that even rational use? So actually the so-called rational use of chemical fertilizers is not rational at all. But the biggest challenge to organic farming is that farming itself is a last choice for most people. Our best organic farmer who has 2-3 acres of land would any day go for a government job if he were to get it. So, but that calls for a bigger challenge that goes beyond the nature of farming, organic or chemical farming. But food, nutritious and healthy food, is and will always remain bedrock of human life itself. So neglect of food production and producers will not do if we have to survive as a. But that requires wholesale change in development paradigm. Blatant celebration and promotion of consumerism has to go, and equity across nations, within nations, and across generations, which is sustainability, has to take center stage. Without that, it is not possible to either protect environment or human life itself. But as natural farming has shown, it is possible. There are alternatives. Wheel doesn't have to be reinvented. But for that, those seeking change have to change their vision. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Thank you very much. I have a Hindi pamphlet also on the basic methods that we promote, and a booklet also. Those who can read Hindi can collect it from me. Any questions?
Are we having a second speaker just now or after some time? Second speaker? Not here. Then we open discussion, then have what is the way? Acha, okay. Thank you, thank you, Professor Chaudhary, for a very brilliant analysis of the problems related to energy, environment, and health from the basic perspective called agriculture. To what extent today agriculture is capable of ensuring health of the people. That is the thing. And what you have demonstrated is the present agriculture is not in a position to ensure the healthy life of the people, and it is bound to create more diseases, more problems if we go on walking on that. Now, question in 90s, there a phrase which was used in this hall, Tina, there is no alternative. What he, as a great economist who have put his whole life on research in agriculture and associated with the people's movement, farmers movement, has come out with another slogan: there is alternative. So this is a response from no alternative to yes, there is alternative, provided those who are managing the system are willing to accept and change the entire agricultural practices, entire agricultural relations. Now it means your agriculture industry, all these have to be changed. And we will have a discussion. Professor Divakar is a discussant. We'll invite him after this presentation. We have another speaker. And since the speaker is not, I thought the speaker will come here, but he is in a virtual world. So let us listen him. He is Professor P. Kaliraj. Would you like to introduce him? Anybody? Acha. So Professor P. Kaliraj will be the second speaker. I have no idea what is his theme, etc. So they will inform.
Dr. P. Kaliraj is the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Bharatiyar University. He has more than 4 decades of experience as an academician and researcher. During the initial period of his career, he held the post of Research Director at SPAN Research Center, Surat. Prior to being the Vice Chancellor of Bharatiyar University, he held many key positions in Anna University, Chennai, such as Professor, Director, and Head of the Department, Dean, Interim Vice Chancellor of Anna University, and Emeritus Professor. He is also an ICMR Emeritus Medical Scientist. He has published 92 research papers in peer-reviewed journals, 70 proceedings in various national and international conferences, and has 3 patents to his credit. Dr. P. Kaliraj is a recipient of many awards such as Mrs. and Dr. G. P. Talwar Oration Award by the Association of Clinical Biochemists of India 2018, Senior Scientist Oration Award by Indian Immunology Society 2013, Lifetime Achievement Award by Biotechnology Research Society of India 2013, Dr. B. N. Singh Memorial Oration Award by Indian Parasitology Society 2011, Dr. B. P. Pandey Memorial Oration Award 2010, BRSI Industrial Medal of Biotechnology Research Society of India 2003, Fellow Biotechnology Research Society of India 2009, BSR Faculty Award by University Grant Commission 2009. We are honored to have you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank Crescent University for giving the opportunity to join with the delegates of 45th Indian Social Science Congress. And more than that, I've been asked to use a plenary talk in health associated problems related to the social sciences and life science and other things. So I would like to present my PowerPoint. Nowadays, people started realizing the importance of social science research. For a long time, the social science research as well as the life science research and also the research of health associated research problems, it has been done separately, and a stage has come that there is a need for the importance of the social science research that can enrich and inform the society to create the context in which policy and technological innovation can flourish. Or cultural factors, institutional relationship, then predicting the human behavior, facilitating the social control and welfare of the humanity. So today I would like to give my talk regarding the sustainable development goal, how this sustainable development goal has to be used for the future of science, technology and innovation. And as you all know, today if you have to go for self-sustained world, we should have the sufficient world's energy, sufficient water, food, food and sanitation need. These are the components that we have to be self-sufficient for having the attained the SDGs goal. Now with this digital transformation, what kind of research is in progress? Number one, the automation. And you might be knowing that self-driving cars, machines that read X-rays, intelligent system based on data analytics and artificial intelligence, they are the materials and research which is going to be the future of the day. And also in teaching component like experiential learning, like using augmented reality. Then the good health or improvisation of health is very, very important for managing the health problem of the society, and especially the infectious disease management and development of diagnostics and vaccines are very much essential for having the good practices of health. And as you know, if you just look into the history of industrial revolution, the education has been always mapped with the industrial revolution. The first revolution was innovation of steam engine, second electricity, third computer. Now we are in the digital revolution where we have to use the IR4, that is Industrial Revolution 4, and the matched or mapped component of the education is the education 4. So here, the combined this digital revolution, it combines the technological and human capacities in an unprecedented way through self-learning algorithm, then various materials and components useful for the mankind with the exponential growth of the fourth industrial revolution and education 4. And in Tamil Nadu, the Honorable then Chancellor of Bharatiya University and Governor of Tamil Nadu, Sri Banwarlal Purohit Ji, he wanted to bring the Chancellor's Vision 2030 by innovating the education in the era of Industry 4. So he wanted to map the education system of the Tamil Nadu universities with the development of Industry 4 by introducing the Education 4 in the curriculum and syllabus of all the universities. So the Industry 4 components are IoT, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, cloud, cyber security, big data, mobile. It is no longer belonging to the computer science or computer engineering or any other circuit branches. All these digital transformation components have to be incorporated in the curriculum and syllabus of all the subjects, including the art subject, languages, medicine, engineering, law, and various other educational systems. So in Bharatiya University, we were trying to aligning the education with the Industry 4 in the university system, not only in the syllabus of the university, but also in the syllabus of the affiliated institutions. What are the subjects where we have introduced the Industry 4 components? That are like, big data and data analytics has been incorporated in the subject of commerce, social science, management, etc. Then IoT has been introduced in science subject like environmental science, physics, medical physics, computer science, etc. Then augmented reality in chemistry, textiles, communication, etc. Then is artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, and introduction to Industry 4 has been incorporated in the curriculum and syllabus of all the departments of both university department and affiliated colleges. And the next one is what about the books? When we wanted to donate a book to the Honorable Chancellor, I was trying to find out a book on Industry 4 and map with Education 4. We could not get any book at that time for giving to our Chancellor. So I suggested my faculty members. That was the time when we were having the first wave of COVID-19, and all the faculty members were sitting at home. I requested them, why don't you go for writing the books for the students as well as the faculty members, because these are the books which is going to be useful for developing the curriculum, developing the materials which will be incorporated into all the subjects. So it was possible for 81 of our faculty members and industrial expert to give about 68 chapters, which has come out as a 5 books. And this book, 4 books have already been, coming to the it has come to the market, and it has been released in the last meeting of the Association of Indian University South Zone meeting in Bharatiya University a few days back. And other book on the basic industries 4 or education 4, it is in the press, which will be coming to the market within a short time. And this is the book release ceremony of our 4 textbook, which has been released by our Honorable Chancellor and Governor of Tamil Nadu in the last Association of Indian Universities meeting. And the university, we have also worked on the disruptive reforms in global higher education with Bharatiya University as a model. When you are introducing new components in the education system, you have to start from somewhere. So it was possible for us to introduce in all the subjects. Now, I would like to tell about the health-related aspect, which will be useful for the social scientists as well as for the life science scientists. And if you just look into the universal health coverage service index, where we got it from the World Health Organization statistics 2021, by monitoring the health for the sustainable development goals. And if you just look into the only 2 continents, that is your North America as well as Australia, they are having the health coverage of more than 80%. And India, we are having about 50 to 59%. There are some, countries like African countries, even the health coverage is even less than 40%. So with these things, the World Health Organization, they would like to have a target which is called as a triple billion targets of World Health Organization, and a shared vision among the World Health Organization and member states, which help countries to accelerate the delivery of the Sustainable Development Goals. So they aim to improve the health of billions of people by 2023 by way of 1 billion more people enjoying better health care and well-being, and 1 billion more people benefiting from universal health coverages, and 1 billion more people better protected from basic health emergencies. And these triple billion targets of World Health Organization, these targets are aligned closely with the Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 1 to 17. They are the foundation of the WHO, that is the 13th General Program of Work, that is GPW 13, acting as both a measurement tool and a policy roadmap to accelerate the progress towards the health-related sustainable development goals. And if you look into the shortfall of the projected, that projected shortfall in reaching the WHO triple billion targets, there is a shortfall about 100 million for the healthier people population, where 900 million people, more people by 2023, it will be reaching the target, and there will be shortfall of about 100 million to have the healthiest one. Then the average one, that will be the universal health coverage, which will be able to have 290 million more people will be having the universal health coverage, where we expect about 710 million shortfall. And if you just look into the basic health emergency protection, and we reach almost 920 million people, they will be able to have this reaching the WHO triple billion targets, and there will be a shortfall of only 80 million. And if you just look into the socio-economic inequities that contribute to inequities in health and well-being. What are the reasons for that? The inadequate access to quality health service is important. Means it's the main reason for the socio-economic inequities, income insecurity, and inadequate social protection, poor quality housing, unsafe housing, poor quality education, job insecurity, poor working conditions. These are the socio-economic inequalities, and the WHO and various agencies are trying to solve the problem associated with this. And if you just look into the impact of Industry 4 on work, now we have the digital transformation. All our working conditions got changed. The manufacturing conditions got changed. The communication conditions have got changed. With the result of that, the jobs in 2030, how it is going to be. The automation and artificial intelligence will drive the world through various mechanisms like cars that drive themselves, machines that read X-rays, and algorithms that respond to customer service inquiries. And jobs in 2030, and there will be more number of jobs that will be in the health industries like pharmaceutical research and development, automotive, oil and gas, marketing, especially the consumer marketing, healthcare, computer engineers, and construction workers. And what kind of impact is going to be there because of this digital technology of Industries 4? So far, recent technological change has no effect on the aggregate number of jobs, but it leads to the digital transformation, leads to significant restructuring of jobs. The type of job that you are having now, it was not existing 3 years back. The type of job that it is going to be there after 3 years, it is different from the jobs that we are having it now. The digitization induces shifts in skill requirements. Digitization requires an accompanying process of organizational change. The digitization comes along with rising shares of alternative work arrangements due to more outsourcing, standardization, fragmentation, and online platforms. These alternative work arrangements imply both new opportunities and future skill development. So what about the impact on skills? What kind of skills that we have to inculcate to our faculty members as well as to the students? It is not only educating the students, even we have to educate our teachers. The type of technology that we were having when we were studying our UG program or PG program or PhD program is entirely different. So we should have the learning, continuous learning, lifelong learning, both for the faculty members as well as for the students. And the skills that we need it today for our teachers and students are critical thinking, Industry 4 tools that has to be incorporated into the curriculum and syllabus, like artificial intelligence, big data, IoT, AR. These are the components which is going to take the subject to the next level of skill requirement for the type of job that we are going to have after 3 years. Then people management is another important, component. Then emotional intelligence, critical judgment, negotiation, cognitive flexibility, knowledge production and management. These are the type of skills that we have to adopt for the faculty members and also for our students. Now, what kind of impact that we are going to have it in education? Now, we should have the disruptive reforms that is required in global higher education. The COVID-19 pandemic has given the base and confidence for us to go for the disruptive reforms like blended learning, online learning, and globalization of the higher education. So we have to go for adopting the good practices for increasing the employability potential. As I told, the type of job which is going to be there after 3 years is entirely different from what we are having it now. There will be more number of jobs, but the type of job that we are having will vanish. In order to increase the employability potential, involve the industries in curriculum design and curriculum delivery. About 20% to 30% has to be having the industrial components and match curriculum with the state-of-art industrial requirement, say industry 4 and 5. Start from what skills industries expect from students for the future need, and also the type of the components, the type of the industrial manufacturing process, assembling process that they are going to have, that has to be there through academic industry interface, and carry out the reverse engineering, map skills with the syllabi content and sequence the subjects. And what is the scenario of Indian universities in technology transfer? And we have to go for adopting the good practices. Now, what is the status now? The intellectual property awareness as a matter of good practices should be made a part of the curriculum in the school itself. A student, when he is doing his 9th standard or 10th or 11th or 12th, he should know what kind of job he is going to have. And there is a need for the job for which he is suitable, and also what kind of job that will be suitable for him. Today, our students are under the influence of the parents as well as the teachers. And there is a need for the school to have the arrangements to develop the students for which he is going to be suitable and what kind of subject he has to learn for the betterment of his future. This will ensure that an effort at ingrained IP awareness in the education system begins at an early stage, which is very, very important. Now, in government of Tamil Nadu, they would like to have several programs for having the awareness program to the students in intellectual property rights, and also many other good components and good practices which will be suitable for them, which will be needed for them for their higher education. Then encouraging the students to understand the importance of startup, thus directing the focus towards entrepreneurship. If they are having the interest in the school level, when they are coming to the undergraduate program, they are going to ask what kind of subject they have to select, and what kind of technology they want to learn, and what kind of add-on courses they would like to have for developing the skill suitable for the job that is going to exist. And if you just look into the number of patents filed over a period of time, Indian Research and Technology Institutes filed over 25,000 patent applications over a period of 10 years, and but only 1/5 of these patents filed got approved, and less number of patents were granted. Though we applied a large number of patents, only very less number of patents has been granted, and from these granted patents, only very few patents have been translated into a product. The patent is only a paper. Unless you translate the patent into a meaningful product, which is going to be useful to the society, there is no point in having the patents. Now, what steps should be taken to improve the education? To go for a large number of educational associated materials like acceleration of translational research, clinician-driven product development, then IPR generation, product development, and various other important development programs. Then translational research that we are trying to introduce from the school level, how a student has to take when he is coming for the higher education. Once if we encourage the students and develop the knowledge about the startups, knowledge about the translational research at school level, the type of motivation that he is having it in the school level, when he is coming to the undergraduate level or postgraduate level, he will try to have his research at the UG level itself. You will try to develop some research program which will be ending with development of some product which will be useful to the society, because the education is for the society. Education belongs to the society. The education is taken up by the people, by the taxpayers' money, the huge amount of money, the government of Tamil Nadu or government of India or many world organizations which are pumping into the educational system. The results should be whatever the research finding, whatever the academic finding they are having, that has to be translated into a research and a product development. Now, if you just look into the productization and commercialization, when a undergraduate student or postgraduate student, when he is doing his UG or PG, he has to identify at least one or two areas in which he can develop some basic research and target identification. And by the time he is coming for the PhD program or research program, he will be in a position to have the motivation to translate his basic research into a lab model or a lab process, which will be helpful for him for developing a meaningful product, which will be useful for the validation, market acceptance, and helping with and joining with the industry and entrepreneurial identification. So once if the student is able to contact, or once if the institute is making an arrangement with the startups where you will be able to join with some good industries, it will be possible for us to go for the transfer of technology, or technology can be used by the startup company itself, and it will be possible for developing the pilot scale, then clinical studies, then licensing and marketing supply, and post-marketing support and development. Now you can just look into the pyramid. The one that we learn in the basic academic work or basic research, it will get vanished unless you take it to the level of the marketing and supply. We request the faculty members, whatever the research you do, whether you do the life science research or social science research, unless the basic research is targeted towards the meaningful product, it might be a process or it might be a finding, unless it is useful to the society, the basic research or studies doesn't have any value. Then in translational research, how the Indian government or the globally we can encourage. Currently, if you just look into the faculty members, the career advancement scheme for faculty members are given only based on the publications, citations, and patent, not the product, patents itself, which is not sufficient. The career advancement of faculty should be linked to the development of products that are useful to the society and developed by the faculty. Today, a faculty member, if he is having about 30 papers in a high impact journal and one patent, and it is sufficient for him to go from assistant professor to associate professor or associate to professor. But there is a need for the government to go for the academic performance index. Apart from the academic performance index, there is a need for product development index that is need to be framed for the assessment of performance of the faculty. According to me, if a faculty member has developed a product, that should be equivalent to a large number of publications or a patent paper he is having it with him. So in the curriculum, we have to include creativity, ideation, conceptualization, design of new products and development, and assessment of students should be linked to stages of product development. And these are the future need in the education system. Now, the translational research, a case study. I would like to tell about my own research work in few slides. An example of how the translational research has reached the society. I've been working on a research program on global elimination of human lymphatic filariasis that causes the elephantiasis. I've been working on 3 different areas, starting from my PhD days. Then with industry, I was in industry as a R&D manager for 6 years. Then I was in Anna University for nearly about 25 years. During this time, I have been working for the development of effective diagnostics, prophylactics, and therapies. Here I would like to tell, when I have been working during my PhD days or when I was working in the Anna University, the type of technology that was available at the time was very, very primitive. It took nearly about 15 to 20 years to develop a diagnostics or a vaccine or a drug target. Now, with the available technology over here now, the future generation will be able to develop all these things within a shortest period. So here, this particular disease, that is a lymphatic filariasis, like that there are several diseases. We call it as a neglected tropical diseases. The government of India or government of or the World Health Organization, they put a lot of money for the lifestyle diseases, like cardiac diseases, then your diabetic and various other lifestyle diseases, because the manufacturers, the pharmaceutical people, they will be getting more profit by developing the medicine for the lifestyle diseases, because you have to take the that diagnostic method or your treatment throughout the life. But the WHO is insisting on investing more on neglected tropical diseases. There are several factors contributing to the societal burden of the neglected diseases like ascaris or hookworm or leishmaniasis. Very recently, you might have seen the Nobel Prize for Economics has been given to Abhijit and his wife Esther. Here, they have been working with World Health Organization, giving annual dose of albendazole, that is for deworming. And in developing countries or the tropical countries, the health issue is very, very important. And many people, because of the worm infection, they are not keeping good health and the productivity is less. And treating the individuals in developing countries with one dose of albendazole for nearly for more than 5 years, it was possible for them to improve the health of the children in the childhood, and also the working capability of the people was increased, and it was possible for them to prove the 7% increase in the productivity of the people working in the tropical region for which the Nobel Prize has been given. So the neglected tropical diseases has to be identified, and the countries like India, they have to invest more money for solving the problem associated with removal of these diseases, because removal of these diseases will lead to the productivity of the individuals and it will be useful to the development of economics. So I have been working on that, and see, the type of genomic work that we were having was so primitive at the time. In 1990 or something like that, we were having only the genomic DNA. We were able to develop some diagnostic method and drug targets. And when I go for the diagnostic method, it was possible for me to develop a diagnostic kit for human lymphatic filariasis. It is a 2-minute rapid flow through colloidal gold immunoassay for the diagnosis of these diseases which is prevalent in our country using recombinant protein. So it took nearly about 10 years for me to do the research, starting with primitive parasitic protein, then genomic recombinant protein, then cDNA protein. Now, lot many things are available. Whatever the work I have done in 10 years time or 15 years time, a person who is doing the research now, he will be able to do it in 1 year time. So here we develop the technique. It is a 2-minute assay. If the test is, you need only 2 drops of blood, and if you are getting the only one reagent is given, if the single dot is there, it is negative. 2 dots are coming, it is positive. Now, this is a basic research where it has been translated from the lab type to the prototype. The prototype is ready. Then we have gone for the field studies. After the field evaluation by Indian Council of Medical Research and World Health Organization, and the kit has been evaluated by several countries through WHO, and it was found to be having 100% sensitive and 100% specific, and it was possible for us to introduce in the market in 2007. So technology development happened for this particular diagnostic kit. That time, the Honorable Minister Dr. Kapil Sibal, he introduced this particular product. Now, introducing the product in the market is not the only, it is not the end. You have to work with industries, how long the product will be working, If there is any problem with the performance of the kit, you have to work with industries and you have to go for the post-marketing research and post-marketing survey to improve the product. So this product is available in both Indian market and the African market since 2007, and we get very good royalty for NINOC and myself. So the other one is the development of vaccine. I've been working for 15 years on vaccine development. There are several types of vaccine, and the type of vaccine that we have developed, the last vaccine that was very effective one was the peptide vaccines, because this we have only essential components of the vaccines from the genes coding for a particular one, and it was very useful, and it was possible for me to develop the vaccine. But the vaccine introduction to the society is it is a problem of government. It is the government who decide whether the vaccine has to be introduced for the particular disease or not. They wanted to introduce for the COVID. Within a short time, they were able to introduce, because the vaccine introduction to the society is decided by this thing. We have over 15 candidate vaccine which is available in our cells. As and when the government decides, this will be available for marketing. Then the other work is development of drugs for the disease, for the same disease. It was possible for me to identify one protein which is called as a glutathione transferase that is needed for the detoxification of both the human and the parasite. Now it was possible for me to crystallize the protein of the parasite compared with the human enzyme, and it was possible for me to identify the human specific region. And if you are able to develop an inhibitor, and this inhibitor is the one which will be the specific drug for this particular disease. Right now the type of drug that we are having is not specific for this. The type of drug that we are going to have is going to be more specific for this thing. This is only an example for the translational research. Now, what is the stage of today? I've been working for 20 years, 25 years. Now the scientists today, they need not to go for 10 to 15 years for developing the vaccine. The traditional vaccine development, it needs about 10 to 15 years to go for the exploratory preclinical phase 1 studies with the comparatively few control volunteers to larger phase 2 and phase 3 studies. But the accelerated vaccine development today that you might have seen in the COVID-19 vaccine development, it needs only about 12 to 24 months for developing the vaccine, because you need few months for the exploratory and preclinical, then phase 1 clinical trial, phase 2, phase 3, then approval stages. Within 24 months, it will be possible for us to go for the vaccine development. So we have to prepare our students to go for the modern vaccine development. And you might have seen the history of the novel COVID vaccine status globally. The Medicago, that Covifense, that is a COVID-19 vaccine, which is a plant-based virus like particle where you can produce it on a large scale, and it has been proved to be working with the people age group of 18 to 64, and so many other types of clinical trial is going on for the variant specific vaccines which is prepared by Pfizer and Moderna, and also our own Indian government. They have organized through several of our Indian companies who are working for developing the vaccine for COVID-19. And if you just look into the research, the recommendation is we have to go for establishing a virtual school, then use analytics to inform course content and design with rapid reference cycles, identify the hiring hotspot, integrate nano courses from global universities into regular content. Now we have various universities. They come forward to work with other universities. One such example is the Latin America and Caribbean, then North America, that is a Singularity University, Europe, that University of Perugia, and many other continents. Several universities they join together and work for the global, the globalization of education and also the research. Like that, many other examples are there. The only thing is to start experimenting with platforms like Spatial to divert content, and work with the other universities to combine international and local students. What we have to do first, let us have the credit transfer and working among the the state universities. Then we can go for the credit transfer and other transfer of the content from one state to other state. Then we will see the growing importance of research clusters and universities as traditional education move to technology platforms. Strong capabilities for industries of the future, criteria to become a future learner partner by way of demonstrable expertise in an era of knowledge, strong academic research, a commitment to advancing education, and Times Higher Education University ranking also emphasizing the same thing. Now, when we come for what are the innovative things currently it is going on and what kind of treatment strategies that has come just now by the way of using the current technological development and digital transformation. Gene therapy for the problem which could not be solved, that is hemoglobinopathies, including sickle cell diseases and thalassemia, where gene therapy is getting successful. Then smartphone connected implantable devices like pacemaker and defibrillators to monitor and prevent or correct arrhythmias. Then bubble continuous positive airway pressure, that is CPAP, a non-invasive ventilation strategy for increased lung function in premature babies. Vacuum-induced uterine tamponade device for postpartum hemorrhage, increased access to telemedicine through novel practice. So ultimately, I would like to tell that the technology is available and we cannot wait for a longer time to introduce the available technology transformation and available digital transformation into our curriculum and syllabus. There is a need for introducing the curriculum and syllabus for various things and also for education. Thank you. I have already finished. Is there any question time or we are going to the next?
Dear delegates, if there are any questions, I would like to take the questions.
May I invite Professor Rajan Chaudhary or Dean Devakar to the dais? Please come. No further. Friends, please remain.
Okay, thank you. That's a standard question. Come and answer. Thank you very much.
Friends, we return to the first speaker. What the Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Kalraj has presented is a very complex things, and the substance of is sustainability of the system. And the system which is responsible for creating the problems of survival, problem of health, whether the system is sustainable. And that question was addressed by the Conference of Scientists in 1990s, which concluded this business as usual cannot go on. And which means unless you change the whole system, you bring back the villages that have been destroyed here to expand your Chennai, you just can't do that. And that is a very difficult thing. And when we talk about sustainability, we must understand in Gita, there is a sloka, Vasans jirnani yatha vihaya. Once your body has become useless, you cannot survive no matter how many surgeons, doctor you use. Similarly, the social system that has developed today, which is what Ambedkar drew as dancing of energy and mass combination, and what he has preserved and brought that unless you reverse back to old agricultural practices, You just can't provide a healthy food to anybody. Your doctors and your medicine, your vaccinations will not help by any means. But he has covered a very large things which requires his written paper, face-to-face interest. We should hope we will have someday. We had Congress in Bhartiyar when he was not Vice Chancellor. Maybe we will have Congress again when he is Vice Chancellor. Now I request Professor G.M. Devakar to put forward. Professor Devakar is a very, familiar with the problems of agriculture. Is a very good economist on agrarian relation, agrarian questions, and also he has, after retiring, gone to a village and doing agriculture, growing potato and all kind of things. So he knows what difficulties are.
You know, when Chauveji has to introduce, he takes his own way to do things. I am a student of economics, yes, but if I have to perform the work of a discussant, I will be confined to the presenters, what they have presented. The title very itself, when he is saying that conventional farming adversely impacts environment, energy, and health. And then he is suggesting that self-reliant organic farming contributes to the protection of all. Two prescriptions that he is making. One, that the conventional energy is destroying, conventional farming is destroying everything. Throughout his presentation, when he was dealing with, it's a very huge presentation, very detailed compilation of documents and evidences, and well researched from the available literature that he has done. But like a student like me, when I was looking for a perspective, I was left roaming. I did not find perspective there. Because when I say perspective, if you are saying that conventional farming is not good, quote unquote, what is conventional itself? That's not there. If Haryana is the case for conventional at this stage, what he has taken it, let us understand about the structural issues of agriculture that we have. You know, first of all, Haryana is one part of agricultural agrarian arrangements. If you take the all India structure, then you have somewhere you had the permanent settlement, the other parts you have the Mahalwari, and third part you have some Rayatwari, and there were some princely estates as well. So the agrarian structure that we got from colonial legacy was not homogeneous. The structure was not homogeneous. And when we are taking the stock of last 75 years and then we are looking into these analyses, again we have a problem that while dealing with self-reliance, he took the clue from Gandhi's self-reliance, Gandhian model, closer to Gandhian model of self-reliance. Again, a student like me has a problem that if you take Gandhian model of self-reliance, you cannot take it just as a part piece. Gandhian model itself has a perspective, a structure looking into the things. If you don't take Gandhian perspective of cooperative farming under which circumstances he has said, and you are taking the Gandhian model, it will be just like as earlier governments have been quoting Gandhi and doing what they were like. So if you like taking Gandhi's reference through Hind Swaraj, coming to his village Swaraj, and then his writings through 100 volumes of collected works, and then you look at the Gandhi, that becomes with the cooperative farming. Do Haryana has a cooperative farming? The kind of a structure that we have at the all India level, the situation is such. There are many evidences we can go through the agrarian structure. We all know, I am not going to the details of it, that despite having best wishes of the policy makers, agrarian reforms did not take place, and finally it has been pushed back relegated, and now something else has come in terms of market, cooperative market, then this organic farming, green revolution, blah, blah, blah. Again, my question is, if you are looking into the chemical and the non-chemical alternative, green revolution itself was not amenable to the question. It has to come at this level. He has rightly said that the nutrition is more important, but for nutrition, first we have to have a nutritional mapping. That's required. And till date, we don't have nutritional mapping of our soil. So unless you have the pathological clinical exercise, and if you are diagnosing something, we have already destroyed our land, really. But at the same time, majority of the landless who are working on the other's farm for their survival, what kind of biotechnological or organic farming that we are suggesting? Whether they are getting any clue out of it, that part is missing. Second thing which I would like to put before the August host, what I have known from his presentation, often he was referring to Cuba. I fail to understand, if you take Cuba as a context, are we taking the Cuba, a structural Cuba? Are we taking the political Cuba? Are we taking the political economy of Cuba and then political structure, and then we are looking into India? Is that comparable? A student of economics like me, looking at agriculture, I need some kind of clarity, because when we are speaking on those issues or dealing with those issues, we need a ground from where we are looking into it. The consistency of ground is necessary to reach to a conclusion. We can have numbers of literature. They can give you some of the informations, but are the same in their perspective? Can we make all together without having any perspective exercise of that? They cannot be clubbed together when we are looking into. That's my problem. Coming to good agriculture practices, taking nutritional damages and NPK distribution, whatever data from ICAR or from the different micro and macro studies, if you look into it, NPK ratio, thumb rule they are talking of, they have not taken the nutrient ratio. So unless we have the pathological clinical data saying thumb rule, the 4:1 NPK ratio is fine, that does not help. Even if you take that 4:1 ratio, that is not working. There is a huge gap intra-regional, intra-district and intra-state. In such a situation, if you are prescribing organic farming, on the one hand, we have not done justice with the conventional farming model, and I become very perturbed on the one hand when he is saying that Uttam Kheti, the first order of agriculture that was in the tradition. On the other side, he says conventional energy has destroyed things. So what that conventional is mean, that needs to be explained. Now, coming to the last point, I will not take much time. Two observations that have come from the deliberation presentation is, one is overeating and obesity for surplus. My God. Production has been done. The farmers have produced. We could not manage them to keep them. We were not in a position to create infrastructure, be it government or be it an infrastructural policy otherwise. And therefore, the storage and the spoiling of the storage is one of the issues, and the marketing on the other side is the other issue. I am not going to the marketing side till date. Farmers, you have appealed to the farmers, farmers have produced. We don't have the capacity to retain those farmers' produce in a place from where they can get return of it. We are not in a position to give it to the non-owner farmers due share, and unless we look into that structural issues, prescribing organic farming, maybe that those who have land and who want to be on land, they may get some clue, but he has rightly pointed out that the NSS data itself suggests that if the options are given, the majority of farmers, they don't want to continue farming because it has become non-viable for them because of various reasons that we can count. In such a situation, if you are looking into the agriculture alternative through organic farming per se, I am again putting organic farming in quote unquote. It's not organic farming that was practiced sometime earlier, which somebody now saying that natural farming, others are saying conventional farming, somebody says without chemical fertilizer, and so green farming. Various names are being given. It is being branded otherwise. But a person like me fails to understand that unless we, as Dr. Chaubeji was referring, unless we address that structural systemic issue, a prescription may be so good, so ideal, will it come and will it be translated on the ground? And more so, I am putting the last point here that today is not we are where we were before independence. Many institutional arrangements have come in, including WTO. And these institutional arrangements have disturbed the food diplomacy and geopolitics. Unless we look the national and international geopolitics into account, it's very difficult at this stage to say that a terminator seed or the kind of seed that we are prescribing, that is good seed, that is the green seed. The farmers, they can produce the seed, that seed they cannot retain it, and if they are retaining, what will be their fate? That is altogether different geopolitical scenario. So the global scenario of food politics and then having prescription of the organic farming, I don't see compatible. So a person like me has a problem when we are looking into the agriculture as a sustainable, what we are going to sustain, whether what we minority feels that is to be sustained, a pocket that we have done that is to be sustained, and if that is to be sustained, is that Gandhian model? Can we think of in terms of village Swaraj, village republic, and then arrangement of the land through cooperative farming, and then looking into the shares of the poor, last man into that, and if you are not addressing that structural issues, come what may, what the kind of prescription that will do, perhaps that will not help. Prescription looks good, but it will not be translated on the ground. That's my apprehension. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Divakar, for raising a very profound questions. Before I invite him, I will request some of you who want to raise questions, we can admit 5 questions. So 5 participants can raise questions. So with Arularam beginning from this side, and then yes, please. So one by one, be very brief. Kindly note their questions and things.
Even our farmers in their own land, they have both chemical agriculture and organic agriculture. Organic agriculture for their domestic consumption and chemical agriculture for the market. That means that chemical agriculture, if it's a banana, it becomes a bigger banana and it gets more profit. It's a practical thing which people do. And not only America, we say America does organic farming for itself and exports chemical farming. The second aspect is that the chemical agriculture is subsidized, whereas the organic farming is not subsidized. So the first thing I said is that even the farmer himself knows that NPK is necessary for increasing the profit and productivity. I'd like you to come.
Second question, please. Gopal. Be very brief.
I think Professor Chaudhry's paper was quite rich, and coming from environmental movement, I get the sense that he is sounding an alarm bell against ecocide, against insectageddon. When 45% of the insect species are going extinct, the unscientific economics discipline is naturalizing destruction of insect species. And the reason I say so, that the economic planning itself, Professor Major General Sudhir Bombadkar's paper talked about interlinking of rivers, and that entire economic planning for interlinking of rivers is unscientific because it is against water cycle. Professor Chaudhry's paper shows that the economic planning for agriculture is against biological cycle, which is quite, I congratulate him for highlighting that point. The natural farming is the way to go, he concluded. And Dr. Chaube concluded in his remarks on your paper that the idea that there is no alternative has been demolished by your paper. There is alternative, and I congratulate you for recognizing it and highlighting it. Lastly, I would say that right to safe and nutritious food is part of right to life. It is not guaranteed by Constitution of India. It's a pre-constitution right. It is only recognized by Constitution. Any economic planning which admits of any academic discipline which admits of negative externality is committing academic corruption. Negative externality, when it leads to extermination and elimination of pollinators who contribute to food production, who undermine food producers, I think it is unacceptable. And therefore, to respect, last sentence, to respect and protect scientific temper, scientific planning instead of scientism, we need to protect water cycle and biological cycle, which your paper brought it out brilliantly. Thank you, sir.
Third, yes, please. Name yourself. Please.
Hello, I'm Dr. Uma Shankar from Delhi University.
Please.
Sir, in 8000 BC, agriculture gave rise to different civilization. Okay, again we see the decline of Indus Valley, the first civilization in India. It was the imbalance of ecological imbalance. So, it was a good observation. But how you will address, you have not addressed the main thing which is troublesome, that is population. How you will address this, and how these days everything is managed by the capitalism, and it is influencing different government. How you will address it? Thank you.
Thank you. Fourth question. Who wants? Mr. Burte, Prakash Burte.
Prakash Burte. I agree with most of what you have said. One issue I always felt, and you have mentioned that, but the solution has not come. The last issue is, and which was very difficult, you said it is a difficult problem, that is, farmers will leave farming. If you want to give them the income, it is as if it is equivalent to the government service, they may not leave, right? And if you want to give that much of income, what other sections of the society will say and how much opposition it will be, just imagine. For example, say a person like me, I worked in some scientific institution as a scientist. I always doubted why I am getting so much salary, and why that person who is digging the road or one who is doing farming is not getting that much salary. The salary structures or income structure itself supports migration from farming to other places, and tackling that anywhere is very difficult, and no government will do it. Let us not have a hope in any government in the world, I'm saying. Everybody has migrated from all our forefathers were in villages, and we slowly have migrated, and finally we want to our kids to migrate to USA or some such thing.
Thank you.
So
Fifth question.
comment on it.
Fifth question. Anybody? Anybody who wants to raise question? Please come forward fast, but don't fall down.
Sorry, sir, I am a student. I am not asking. I am not going to ask a question.
Ask.
And it's
really.
like it's a like request. Why can't you delegates can start a farming from our child for children itself in school? It can. Why can't be a subject or like physics practical, chemistry practical? So why can't you start from there itself so that we can also learn? So that may be a change. It can start from ground level. So that's my request, not a question.
Thank you. Anybody still who says that he will be deprived? We have nobody is deprived. Anybody? You want? Yes, Professor Ilongo, as a Professor Pandey. He is a historian, so you will take agriculture in a historical perspective.
No, not really, because I mean, if that were to happen, then it will take another 2 hours to.
Please, just.
No, I just want to draw attention to the LTG warnings of the early 1970s, the limits to growth paradigm, which was mentioned right way back in the late 60s, early 90s, when it was very clearly mentioned that almost all the economic problems we are facing today are the consequence of an unequal world which has been created by the capitalist mode of production. A large part of the solution to the problems which you have underlined lies in what Kutte Saab has just said. That is a radical redistribution of the social surplus in society. If the farmers are given proper incentives and they are given a larger slice of the national cake, they will certainly resort to organic farming, which will be good for the country, for the earth, for the environment, and probably good for everything. But will the pharma companies allow that? Will all the vested interests which have now very firmly dug into the national apparatus and the state and so on, whether the big capitalists will allow that to happen is a question of political economy. It's a question of your electoral politics and so on. That's a much bigger question which I don't think we can answer here.
Professor Elegon, thank you. You have raised a historical, serious question. Please, let him. Please raise his question. Don't be unhappy.
Organic farming is a means for climate adaptation. For an example, carbon sequestration and less water consumption. And as far as our experience concerned, we have also conducting and collaborative research on this food security and climate change. And in our practices, most of this organic farming is a greenwash. It's of course very seriously is not taking place. Yes, I agree. That's organic farming. If seriously done it, certainly it will be a means for climate adaptation techniques. Certainly we have to encourage. And of course, I don't know what kind of government policies is that. As an economist, you can also very well suggest for that kind of things. And how this organic farming seriously, of course, it has come. We can talk the traditional farming and of course the green farming. There are a lot of names for that. But if we wanted to sincerely practice it and wanted to use it as a means for reducing the earth warmness, what is the maybe an approach from you? That's what. Thank you very much.
Would you like? You know all villages have their problems, struggling with the farmers, the panchayats, etc. So why not put your question also so that.
So good afternoon. I am Satish from Anna Institute, Chennai. Sir, you spoke about the labor-intensive nature of organic farming, as if that is an advantage for the farmers. But isn't assumed that every developed country move towards the service and manufacturing sector from the agriculture one. Is it the right way to go forward? Because to stagnate the farmers, because will the government accept this kind of proposal when the workforce has to be moved to make it developed? Because that's what it's assumed or is being taught.
Okay,
Will
now
that
Professor
be in
Pavitra
way
is the
forward?
last question, please. Your will be the last. No more.
Actually, I mean, if you want to raise such a kind of questions, we have to raise it among the farmers. Most of the occasions, we believe that, I mean, the country can be managed only by the politicians and the IAS officials, the scientists. I mean, if you ask a fundamental question, can you produce food for them, for all, where they won't? I mean, somebody raised a question. I mean, he has rightly, raised a question. What is the difference between a computer engineer and a farmer working in the field? And who fixed the salary for the CEOs, chairman of the companies? 40 crore per year, 70 crore per year. So on what basis? Who fixed? Nobody knows. So in this country, we have His Excellency the President of India, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Chief Minister, His Excellency Governor, most respected members of Parliament, members of Legislative Assembly, and the officials. And where is citizens in this country? I mean, what is the level? In the whole of 70 years, if you make a thorough analysis, you find beneficiaries in the country. They are the people, they are working, toiling and moiling from dawn to dusk, and we call them as beneficiaries. Government will, give benefits, you receive benefits. If you are not in a position to receive benefits, you please put a petition as a petitioner, not as a citizen. But, very bravely, we coined in our constitution, democratic republic. What is a republic? We celebrate, every year, the Republic Day. But what is republic? Where is public? What is the condition? Never we respect our people. This is the most important thing. If you want to discuss it, you bring farmers. Then in this country, those who are working in the farm, there are farmers. Those who are on the political sides, they are all farmers because they have organizations. The poor farmer is working in the farming, but nobody took care about it. So the approach has to be changed because who are the real stakeholders? So in this country, we never respect the farmers. We never respect the working class. We never respect people. Those I will tell you. There is one class, manual scavenging. We abolished it twice through act, but still it continues. Have we ever, cared about them? No. Then there is a person, burying the dead corpse and burning the dead corpse. What is the salary, you ask him? Nobody bothers about it. One day I asked a student, why don't you do your research? Then he went away. Then he came to me. He told me, sir, I searched in Google, nothing came out. How can I do research? Without Google, you can't do research. That fellow is burning dead car. If you ask him, he will tell a story. He will tell a story. Today, because the communist movement in East Tanjore, whenever there is, operation season, agriculture farming season, there will be always protest. There is a dialogue between the, farmers and the laborers. Then it will be settled by the government. Now, there is no farmer there. All machines are operated. There is no resistance because they have gone elsewhere. So that is the condition, and the whole paradigm has to be changed. Not only the governance paradigm, all kinds of frameworks have to be changed. Unless otherwise, it is very difficult. Now we find everywhere managers, brokers, but in different names. Somebody is at a different level doing broker. brokerage and management, but not, governing this country. I mean, there is a word which is being popularized, ruler. I hate that concept, ruler. In a democracy, you are ruling. Democracy, you have to lead. But when you lead, you have to respect the people. If you want to rule, I mean, you need not respect the people. Just you want to carry out. So from that perspective, I look at that issue, and the people, they know how to survive. Even without a government, they survive. I know because in 2004, there was a tsunami in the whole of the coastal. I mean, for 3 days, nobody went to them. Nobody went to them. And they managed on their own. But fourth day, fifth day, they came with all kinds of schemes and, all donations. But they are saying that, don't bring all those things. We don't want all those things. I mean, we know how to manage, but listen to us. Nobody to listen to them. Nobody to listen to them. That is why some of the donor agencies put a condition that if you want to do anything, listen to them, then you provide such a kind of assistance. So, I mean, we think that we will bring solution to the problems of the people, but they know how to find a solution, I mean, in their own way. So, unless you bring a stakeholder, interact with them, respect them, I mean, we cannot find a solution to all those problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Pavitra Rai. I hope next Congress will go to village, every part of India. I invite Professor Chaudhary to respond to all questions.
Actually, most are comments and there are few questions. Let me come to your question. You said that farmers do parallel farming. They do chemical farming and they do organic farming for self-consumption. Yes, that's a fact. But that happens because in organic farming, they only stop usage of chemicals. They don't change other agronomic practices. And if you only stop the usage of chemicals and don't change other agronomical practices, then the yield decline takes place and then the parallel farming continues. So if you have to get better yield, then you have to of course stop chemicals, but then you have to positively change your agronomical practices and then the yield will improve. And when the yield improves, then the parallel farming stops and farmers move on to total organic farming. That is what we suggest farmers to begin with. That okay, whatever you are doing it for your self consumption, you continue with only that much land only to begin with, but adopt all these agronomical changes. And once you do that, then your yield will improve and then you will realize that you don't have to do parallel farming. Yes, that is the practical experience of farmers to begin with. They do parallel farming because the yield decline takes place. But that yield decline takes place because they only stop chemical farming. Otherwise, it continues as a monocrop. It is continues, everything else continues except chemicals. But for to get better yield, to have a self-reliant farming, organic farming, you have to change other agronomical practices. Once that happens, then there is no yield decline and then there is no parallel farming. Most of farmers associated with Kudarti Kheti Abhiyan began with parallel farming, but now they are on to total organic farming because that yield question is important. And once that is taken, that the parallel farming thing stops. But for that, many agronomical practices have to change, a proper training has to take place, etc., etc. That's yes. Right now, even farmers think that without chemicals it is not possible. Our purpose was, and I can say that we have proved that that is a wrong impression that farmers and policymakers both have. Coming to the other questions that you raised or he is raising or others are raising. Of course, the issue is larger of a development model. What kind of a development model you have? How much inequality will be there or not? And those questions are not to be tackled through organic farming or chemical farming. Those are larger issues with which I have not dealt with. But I have understanding of that, but that's a separate issue. But the point is, right now, those who are questioning the development models like him, or even some people like you, but they are not questioning the production methods per se. They are questioning the inequality involved in it, but not the production methods per se. That is what farmers agitation was doing it. Farmers agitation was questioning the institutional aspects, but not the content of farming and production. So that is an aspect which has to be highlighted, because those who are seeking change are also not critical of the production methods and technologies that we are adopting. And it is in that aspect that organic farming and this work that we are doing is important. But this is a this is a larger issue which has to be dealt with, and it is not related to organic or chemical. The young person that who raised the issue that people have to be taken out of agriculture, that is a development model we have been following for last 60 years, or not only in India but the world over. But what has happened? National income is about 18% or less in agriculture, but labor use is 50%. There are no other employment opportunities for labor elsewhere, and you want to throw them out of there itself. So that model that labor has to be taken out of agriculture and has to go to production, that has failed everywhere. We have to begin with dignified livelihood opportunities for everybody, not just farmers, not for some particular section, but for everybody. If that forms the basis of our planning, thinking, that is which would lead to the solutions. And our discussant raised couple of issues. Which aspects of Cuba I am highlighting? Political. I was only highlighting just one aspect, that when it shifted from chemical farming to organic farming, then what happened? You said that I have not defined conventional farming. Green revolution, technology, chemical farming, the farming, dominant form of farming right now is what I meant by conventional farming. That's what I meant. But that is traditional is different from conventional. I did not use the word traditional. I am not using word traditional for this green revolution technology. But today green revolution technology is the conventional technology that is right now being used. I did not use the word traditional agriculture. So let's, anyway, I mean, that's what I meant, whatever may be the term that you wish to use. You also raised an issue of Gandhian, or which aspect of Gandhi, or whether Hind Swaraj or what. I had published a piece in EPW long back, I think, and the title was Fourth World. Fourth World has to take up from Gandhi also, Marx also, environment also, and Ambedkarites also, and women movements also. I mean, all these separate models were raised at some point of time. Now we have a century or 2 centuries of experience. Maybe it is time to combine some of these things, some aspects of some, and a new model has to develop. I think so. That's. Thank you very much.
Friends, Professor Rajendra Chaudhary, mandate for this Congress was whether the agriculture at the moment in the practice in the country or outside the country is conducive to health, conducive to survival of people. And he knows the whole system. He has done a lot of written paper. He confined to our note that is circulated about you have the all kinds of genetic farming and all this farming. He addressed to that because he has been very deeply involved in it. And what he had presented is, yes, there is a now alternative model But that model demands destruction of the present model. Unless you destroy, and present model you cannot destroy because without destroying what Professor Palni Turaidi because giving the primacy to the sovereigns of India. They live in the rural area, they live in the slum area, they live everywhere. Unless you give them sovereignty and reduce the sovereignty of these small number of people who control the whole land, whole wealth, whole produce, unless you change this social system, this economic system, this political system, and this was not on the agenda. So he confined only to the focal theme of the Congress, that was environment, energy, health, and from the agriculture point of view. And he has made a very brilliant presentation. It is for us to take forward. When we debate more, he will bring, because he has, I have been having conversation with him, comments and exchange for quite 2-3 years. And he is one of the few who resigned his post and went to people after disgusted with the academic things. Now, very few people have a courage to resign and go. But he resigned and he went in things. So that way, he's a very erudite scholar. He knows many things. And I am grateful to you, sir. And thank you. I invite you to the Indian Social Science Academy to join it, take it forward, and wish you things. And then Professor Divakar will be making some announcement. I invite, you will pray, I invite Professor Palliturai. Please come and honor our honorable guest speaker, Professor Rajendra Chaudhary. फोटोग्राफर कहाँ है भाई? अच्छा तो कर रहे हैं हाँ now would you announce, sir? Professor, I invite Professor Divakar. I believe everybody is hungry, so majority have left. And that is what happens when you walk on the path of truth. Most of people leave you and you are left alone.
Thank you very much for being with us. Even if you are few, we are very important that way. We have discussed very important issues and then we have rose to somewhere to move on. After lunch, we have parallel sessions at the respective places. That is already at the desk you will find, they will guide you from the desk. At 5, we are going to reassemble here. And in that public lecture, Professor Sabyasachi Chatterjee will be delivering lecture on scientific temper and self-reliance, 75 years of India's independence. And Professor Palani Durai will be chairing the session. So with this brief information, and after 6 o'clock, we have 47th ISA Annual General Body Meeting. Here itself. Yeah, here itself. So you all are invited for lunch.
Thank you. आप लोग भी come for your lunch after closing it. Go forward for lunch. हमारा पानी का bottle